The scariest stories are the ones that are true.
When I was a teenager, I lived in my father's basement. He would frequently go on business trips, and I would be alone in the house for up to a week at a time. One evening in spring, I was up alone watching TV at around 2 in the morning when I heard through the open windows what sounded like two distinct sets of footsteps outside, walking from the front yard, around the side, and into the backyard, where they stopped. It was then that I realized that since all my lights were on, I couldn't look outside, but from outside you could see me. I immediately panicked, shutting off my TV and lights, so now I was alone in my basement, with no lights on, with what I thought were two prowlers sitting on my back deck. I don't know how long I was frozen in the darkness, but after I didn't hear any more sounds for a while, I quietly crept upstairs to try to get a better look into my backyard. Thankfully, all the lights upstairs were already off. Unfortunately, with the way the bushes and patio umbrella were set up, there were large blind spots where it sounded like those footsteps stopped. I considered calling 911, but then when my father would inevitably find out, I knew I'd be forced to stay with my aunt when he went out of state, so I stared at that deck waiting to see movement for at least 10 minutes before I began convincing myself that my mind was playing tricks on me. I decided to go investigate outside. I grabbed the closest thing to a weapon I could, an old shepherd's axe, went out my front door, and crept around the side of my house, crouching behind a bush. I finally mustered the courage to swing the axe into the bush and shout out, "Hey!" Nothing would happen, right? No one would be there, and I'd have a good laugh, albeit an embarrassed one, when I realized I was just being paranoid. Instead, I immediately heard the sound of deck chairs scraping on wood, and two sets of human footsteps running off into the opposite direction. My heart stopped. I felt like I'd blacked out for a second from the adrenaline rush. I ran back around the side of my house in the direction I came. What was I to do? There was no time to think. I made it to my front door, swung it open, rushed inside, slammed it shut, and stood there in the darkness, practically hyperventilating. I stared out into the street, waiting to see someone leaving the property, but no one did. It was then that I realized that now, I wasn't safe inside my house like I thought I would be. I was trapped. I ran out the front door into the middle of the street where I could shout for help if I saw someone. Surely by now I should have called the cops, but I wasn't thinking clearly anymore, if I ever was. Now I was facing my house, but I still didn't see anyone, so I glanced to the left down the street. Nothing. Then I looked right. Two male figures were walking away from me, a block and a half down the street. Just as soon as I noticed them, they turned left at the T-junction onto the main road and disappeared out of sight. For some reason, I ran after them, and when I turned the corner, no one was there. There should have been nowhere to go, and they would have only made it about a half block if they were just on foot. They must have had a car waiting there. I was 13,